everyone, I'm Meg from Cook with Meg. Welcome to our kitchen. And today in this particular series of the Cook with Meg videos, we are taking you through the basics. I think it's a great way to start. Maybe you're a brand new cook, not familiar, not comfy in the kitchen. This is a series for you because we are taking you video by video through the basics. Pantry basics, knife skill basics, how to stock a kitchen basics. And today for this particular video, we are doing pantry basics. Are you ready to begin? Let's learn what we need. All right, so you can see my counter is filled with things that I've pulled from our pantry that I think are the basics that would set you up for success to thrive in the kitchen. Again, maybe you're a brand new cook, or maybe you are trying to create the basics so that you have the foundation, the building blocks. And then as you cook more, as you learn more, you can certainly add to the basics. So where do we begin? I'm just gonna pick the first thing I see. We will talk about it, and then I'll move it to the counter behind me so that I won't talk about it twice. All right, oil. This is regular vegetable oil, and I feel like having one or two kinds of oil in your kitchen is a great thing to have. Vegetable oil is a pretty neutral oil, which means it doesn't have a lot of flavor when you are using it. So it's a great oil to fry with. It's a great oil to bake with if a recipe calls for oil. Other neutral oils which don't have a lot of flavor would be canola oil. Avocado oil is a good one for that. And when we talk about frying things, you want something that has a pretty good smoke point. So a smoke point means we want the oil to be able to handle quite a bit of heat before it starts to smoke. And vegetable oil, canola oil, peanut oil, and avocado oil, I would say, would have a pretty high smoke point, meaning it can handle quite a bit of heat. So veggie oil, a bigger jug is going to save you some money if you have the opportunity to buy things in bulk. You will save probably a bit of money. So oil. This is also a kind of oil, and it's extra virgin olive oil. More expensive. You can see that it comes in a darker bottle, and that means they want you to keep it away from heat and keep it away from light. Now, does this mean that you can cook with it? Absolutely you can, but I would use this sparingly. I probably wouldn't use cup after cup after cup because it is a little more expensive. So a virgin, extra virgin olive oil, really great in salad, dressings, marinades, dipper, dunker. If I'm doing a lot of frying, I would use just a regular vegetable oil. There are hundreds of kinds of oils. So just know that I'm showing you just the basics. Veggie oil, olive oil. Olive oil also has that little fruity taste, and it can be a little bit bitter just because it is derived from pressed olives. In the greasy section, I have just some cooking spray. Canola oil cooking spray. Non-stick spray, you might hear a recipe call for. Non-stick spray. There is also something called baking spray, which is a little different, but that one goes a long way if you're greasing a pan, if you don't want things to stick. A lot of people would cook with it. They would spray it down into a frying pan before you turn the heat on, and then it would just give your pan a little bit of greasiness and not a ton of oil. You can also buy those pump containers where you would pour oil in and then it turns it into a spritzer. So basics. Okay, oil takes me to vinegar. So I'll show you vinegar. This one happens to be apple cider vinegar. Obviously you can get any flavored vinegar you could imagine these days. Having a vinegar is a great thing in your pantry, in your kitchen basic set. So it doesn't have to be apple cider vinegar. It can be regular white distilled vinegar. A great big jug, just like you saw that oil, is fantastic. Oil and vinegar makes a salad dressing. Vinegars can be used to make your own buttermilk. Put a little vinegar into milk and the milk will curdle if a recipe calls for buttermilk. Vinegar is a delicious item that you can use in thousands of ways. So vinegar is a good basic. Saves money on salad dressings when you just have your own oil and vinegar, few spices, you've got a salad dressing. So very basic, important in the kitchen. Let's stay in the savory world and let's talk about broth. I have, did I bring out the other one? No. Okay, so there's chicken broth. This happens to be a powder. You can buy chicken broth, vegetable broth, beef, pork, fish, and oh, it smells kind of good. It comes in like a powder. And this you add water to hydrate it. So it's a broth mix. You can also have chicken broth or beef broth that comes in the tetra pourable packs. You can also buy broth that comes in a jar that's like a gel, like a jelly. But this one would probably be the most affordable and also shelf stable. I also like using this broth mix as a seasoning. So if I'm making something on the stove that needs a little extra saltiness and a little extra depth of flavor, you could shake in a little bit of the seasoning mix. So multi-purpose and shelf stable broth powder, a great one for your pantry basics. In the seasoning world, we often talk about seasoning salt. There's seasoning salt. It's got salt, dehydrated other things in it. It's got some garlic. This one, let me read it. Salt, sugar, spices, including red pepper, dehydrated onion, and garlic, cornstarch, and then a bunch of things that I can't pronounce. But a seasoning salt, there's another seasoning salt. Tahini is very popular. Taco night, scrambled eggs, barbecuing things, a seasoning salt is great. This is a blend, a seasoning blend, roasted garlic and pepper. And you can see, talking about bulk, that is a huge container. But if you happen to have the opportunity to get something that comes in a much bigger container, you absolutely will save money and it will last you forever. There is an expiration date on it, which I can't quite read, but you can use it, have it for a really, really, really long time. Now, something that we do at our house is we buy spices in bulk. So I use mason jars. I think it's a great thing for your pantry. It doesn't have to be a mason jar. It could be any kind of type of bottle or bag or a jar. But oftentimes when you buy spices in the clear little packet envelopes, they're much more affordable, and or go into a bulk store or a bulk section of your grocery store, and then you can fill up jars. And again, if it's spices you go through quite often, here is garlic. So garlic powder, I mean, underutilized in my opinion. I think a lot of people try to go for fresh, but this is dehydrated and super powerful and pungent. And that mason jar is probably almost 2 cups of garlic powder, which would be hundreds, maybe not quite hundreds, but a lot of actual garlic cloves. So we do garlic, we've got dried basil. If you grow and garden, you could dry your spices out at the end of the summer. We've got ground ginger, we've got ground thyme that actually, we bought the thyme that was little teeny tiny buds, and we put it in a spice grinder and we grind our own. So that's a really also another opportunity, not only to save money, but to stretch your budget by stretching your spices. So growing them yourself, drying them out, grinding them, putting them into jars, or buying in bulk and putting into jars, always a good idea. Salt, pepper. A million kinds of pepper and a million brands and varieties of salt, but we like to have a table salt, which is the fine grind. It's iodized, which means they do put a couple anti-clumping agents in so that it doesn't get all caked up. We also have in our house what we call kosher salt, and kosher salt is a little bit bigger, so the granules are a little bigger. It doesn't matter what kind of salt you use, but salt and pepper are your number 1 and number 2 go-to seasoning items. So a kitchen that has salt and pepper, you're already ahead of some that don't. All right, now moving into the baking, we're left with some baking basics. White sugar. Granulated white sugar. We know it, we love it. Sometimes it's hard to get, but there it is. Use it in every conceivable way. We can use this for baking, for cooking, for marinades, for salad dressings, for candy making, for confection. I mean, sugar is sugar. So we try to buy a really big bag, and then we keep them in this canister, and the canister we just keep refilling. Brown sugar, again, you can get brown sugar that's light, brown sugar that's dark. In fact, this one I believe is light, maybe it's dark. And then you can see comes in a bag. I like to take it out of the bag and get it into a canister. You may want to put a little something down in your canister. If you're a family that can eat bread, put a little piece of bread down in, and it'll keep your sugar nice and soft and squishy. Did you know that brown sugar is actually white, granulated white sugar with the addition of molasses? So you can 100% make your own. If you have white sugar and some molasses, you can make your own brown sugar. So white sugar and brown sugar are definitely popular basic kitchen items. I would say that if you really could only choose the one, go with white sugar, only because it's probably used a little bit more than brown sugar. And the brown sugar, because it contains molasses, has its moisture content is higher. So white you can always use, I think, across the board, but brown, sometimes you don't want that extra moisture. So if you're making a choice, maybe just go with regular granulated sugar. Powdered sugar or confection sugar, confectioner sugar, or icing sugar is also granulated white sugar that's been pulverized 10 times, and it's got a little extra ingredient called cornstarch added, and this would be icing sugar. Delicious, widely used in the baking world for frostings, icings, candy making. It is so delicious, and it's a special treat. So if you are a baker, chances are if you open up your pantry, you will find a couple of different sugars, and maybe one of those would be powdered sugar. Cornstarch. This is a really great pantry item to have. I mentioned that it was in powdered sugar. Cornstarch is like corn flour, so it is gluten-free. It's used in baking, it's used in sauces and gravies. It's a thickening agent. I'll use the same spoon just to show you. It looks like powdered sugar. There is cornstarch. It's pretty thick, i.e. why we use it as a thickener. And it is a great kitchen basic. It's a great way for you to thicken sauces, thicken gravies. It's used in baking to help with cookies even becoming a little crispier and having a really great texture. So many uses for cornstarch. You can even use cornstarch to help make a meringue. It's just a great kitchen basic for sure. Flour, moving on, all-purpose flour. Have a bag of it in your cupboard. If you are a family that can eat gluten, you probably do already have some flour in your cupboard. We could go for 700 videos talking about the uses of flour, but it's a great one. And there are all kinds of flour, literally so many kinds, but just a regular all-purpose flour is a great one if you can have gluten because it's wheat. So flour is a good one. And then we have two items, pretty much a staple in the pantry. They're called leaveners. So a leavener is something that we add when we bake to help things puff up and rise and spread out. So we'll start with baking powder. I always say baking powder, the P with powder stands for puff. So baking powder helps your baked goods rise and puff up. A great one to have. Baking soda actually has a lot of uses. Baking soda, I say the S in soda is for spread. So if we want things to spread out and puff up, we're gonna use both. Recipes, usually baking recipes call for either. One of them needs something called an acid to activate it, to kick it into gear, and that would be this one. Baking soda actually needs something acidic, whether it's vinegar or brown sugar, which has molasses, which is acidic, or actual liquids that would help make this activate. Baking powder already contains baking soda. So this one is probably like a little more useful, but baking soda, make no mistake, can be a hero in the kitchen. Bicarbonate soda. And this one you can clean with. You can put it in the drain. You can put it in the fridge to help deodorize your fridge and absorb aromas and smells. Baking soda, if you are itchy and you need to have a little mosquito bite, you can make a little paste with baking soda. Baking soda is a real hero in the entire house, not just in the pantry. But baking soda and baking powder, if you want the basics, grab a box or a container of each. And then I have some vanilla. Maybe not a pantry basic, but if you do love to bake, having some vanilla in your pantry is great. Does it need to be pure vanilla extract? Absolutely not. It can be the artificial. Absolutely, completely fine to have artificial vanilla extract. It's way more affordable. Pure vanilla extract, this one came from Mexico, is expensive. And so I always have a big bottle of the artificial vanilla as well. And if you're making cookies and you're making frostings and a whole bunch of baked goods, use artificial because it will save you a ton of money. If you've got pure vanilla extract, maybe somebody brought it home as a gift or it's something you put money aside to really have it, it's concentrated, concentrated, just use it sparingly. So just use a little bit, a little goes a long way. And that's gonna wrap it up. So pantry basics, things to bake with, things to season with, things to add to and create with. We hope that you've enjoyed this. And if you keep watching the series, you will learn much more in the basics department. For more with me, you can find me at cookwithmeg.com. We offer lots of free classes as well as paid classes and camps. And thanks for watching. Until next time, we always say one thing at the end of every class with Cook with Meg, and those 3 words are we are awesome. Don't forget that. Have a great day, everyone. We'll see you at the stove.